Good evening. This is Akindele Akinyemi, principal of the Gallo Marketplace Center, right here in this great state of Michigan. And tonight, we're interviewing Mr. Abel Onamake. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'd like to know where and when will this West African Trade Fair will be holding?
The West African Trade Fair will be holding in Freetown, Sierra Leone, between 17th and 30th of November, 2025.
And what is the trade fair being hosted by the Nigerian Chamber of Commerce, Industry, and Agriculture in Sierra Leone all about? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I will do exactly that. But I want to give you a bit of context for it because it is important in informing, what I would say later. Africa is a very huge continent of over 50 countries. Unfortunately, the volume of trade that takes place amongst African countries amounts to only 15% of all the trade volume,
My God.
overall trade volume that African countries are engaged in. So in terms of exchange of goods and services within the continent, we've really not done much at all. And if you consider that Africa has a very huge young population of 1.4 billion and an overall GDP of 2.8 trillion, you really begin to understand that we need to take inter-African trade far more seriously than we are doing at the moment. We really need to wake up and take the necessary actions to ensure an enhanced trade relationship between ourselves on the continent. Okay, I will now proceed to answer your question because
Thank you so much for that context. What firms and entities are you expecting to participate in the trade fair?
It's a wide spectrum of both private sector and quasi-government supported firms and entities. From Nigeria, we are expecting the pharmaceutical sector, which is very vibrant, as I guess you know already. We have also made a lot of contacts with the confectionery and food, production or manufacturing companies. The fashion sector we feature greatly because we want to also, appeal to the young population because most trade fairs that have been hosted in Freetown have a very huge patronage by the younger population. They are more in number than because the population of Africa between age 0 and 35 are the majority, Post 35 were a minority. So it's an essentially young population. And so we're also including the beauty sector. We've made a lot of inroads into, during our preparation period. We visited over 5, 6, probably the largest beauty products producer manufacturing companies in Nigeria we visited and they've promised to participate. The construction sector too, We are going to have a number of manufacturing companies that are dealing in iron rods and finishing materials like paints, ceramics, etc. So we are covering a broad spectrum of exhibitors who have promised to participate in the trade fair in Freetown.
Isn't that strange that Nigeria...
And then,
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah. Sierra Leonean firms will also be participating. This is a very important part of it. It's going to be a mix of both Nigerian, entities and Sierra Leonean firms who have also indicated interest in participating because they also have a desire to access the Nigerian market. Nothing prevents them from doing that, because we're talking of 230 million, a country with a population of 230 million. Sierra Leone has about 8.6 million. It's going to be a win-win scenario if these two markets actually come together and take the best advantage of their comparative, make the best use rather of their comparative advantage.
Right.
So that's the whole idea.
Isn't that strange that Nigerian firms with access to a market of 230 million people will be coming to exhibit their products in Sierra Leone with a market of 8.4 million from your perspective?
Yeah, that is a question we've been asked many times, especially when we were in Nigeria. Sierra Leone is a unique country in the sense that if you look at, the ratio, for example, of its potentials in terms of solid minerals, for example, I want to zero down for this part of the discussion.
Sure.
I will specifically zero down on solid minerals,
Okay.
and marine resources. In comparative terms, in per capita terms, which means the potentials of these two sectors compared to population, Sierra Leone has very huge potentialities when it comes to solid minerals and marine resources. I will just cite an example, leveraging on high school geography. Of course, we all know what the continental shelf of a country is. Is the part of that, the continent that borders on the ocean. The Sierra Leone continental shelf, for example, this might, shock a number of people, amounts to about 28,000 square kilometers. Whereas Nigeria's continental shelf is about 16,000 square kilometers. So compare that to the population of Sierra Leone and compare the size of our continental shelf with compared to the population of Nigeria. You begin to communicate. You begin to understand that you cannot just write off Sierra Leone, simply on the basis of population alone. It's got a lot of potentials in terms of solid minerals and marine resources, and it has been largely unexplored in the context of intra-African trade.
Yes.
It's a shame that we've really not taken advantage of our potentials for this long. It is.
Well, could you tell us what will make this trade fair different from the recent ones that was hosted by the Nigerian Export Promotion Council in Japan, Algeria, and South Korea?
Yeah, because we've been planning this trade fair in the course of the past 4 or 5 years. We've been confronted with all kinds of. We were supposed to take off in 2020, but we're confronted with COVID-19, and it threw the spanners into everything that we're planning. And so we've actually been researching how can we, articulate a trade fair that will impact more than what we've been seeing and what we've been reading about trade fairs that have been sponsored by Nigerian government and very large entities here. Because, like you rightly said, within the past 1 or 2 years, Nigeria has led trade fairs in Algeria. The Algeria one is less than 2 months ago, in South Korea, in Japan. What makes ours different? Because this is being hosted by a trade institution,
Yes.
which you have already alluded to in your introduction. Most trade fairs that has been sponsored by Nigerian government and a few other governments in Africa have often adopted the touch and go approach. I'm using the word touch and go because they set up shop, exhibitors come, they exhibit their products for 1 or 2 days, and they exit without establishing supply chain arrangements.
Yes.
With the existing entities or companies within those countries.
Yes.
So it's essentially a window dressing kind of trade fair. They come, it's like a jamboree, people come, play music, and we don't want to do that. We want to do it, we have put together a trade fair that would have a permanent trickle-down effect. So what we've done, we already have 2 or 3 warehouses.
Okay, good.
Where even goods that have been brought, that the Nigerian entities are bringing, the Nigerian companies are bringing to showcase in Sierra Leone, the ones that they will be unable to sell or market in the course of the trade fair will now be warehoused. We'll have a bonded warehouse where we're going to keep them, and us as a chamber of commerce will now take the responsibility of ensuring that even beyond the period of that trade fair, we will take the responsibility of ensuring that we're able to source wholesalers, and viable supply chains, so that the supply arrangement is sustainable and it will outlive the period of that trade fair. That is, in fact, that's another reason why our trade fair is going to last for about 2 weeks. Because we've also been confronted. Why are you going to host a trade fair for 2 weeks? Is because we want to impact sustainably. We don't want that example of touch and go kind of trade fair that actually at the end of the day achieves practically nothing.
Right.
We want to actually impact. We want to impact the Sierra Leonean market and also impact the Nigerian market too, because it's a two-way process.
I think this is very powerful with this trade fair, especially when you're talking about building collaboration in West Africa with trade. I thought one of the key things you mentioned earlier about intertrade on the continent is 15%. That's relatively low.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a bonus question on how, from your viewpoint, how does the African Continental Free Trade Area would fit into something like a trade fair in Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and bringing that synergy in West Africa?
Yes, the African Continental Free Trade Area, I must confess, has been one instrument, one mechanism that has done a lot in terms of enhancing trade amongst African countries, especially in the past 5 years. They've gone very far, they've done a lot, but we still have a number of challenges. One of the challenges is our infrastructure deficit. Because even as we speak today, there is no viable and proper, something as simple as a West African road network.
Yes.
We still don't have that. As for having a rail service, it's non-existent completely. It's a shame. So we have infrastructure deficits as one of the challenges. We also have, differing policies. Of course, you have the Francophone countries and you have the Anglophone countries. Their trade policies, their a governmental approach to, to enhance the trade between countries. The policies are very incongruent. So it's been a constant fight. At times, vehicles that are transporting merchandise from Lagos to Freetown, on the average, have to sleep over in most of the border posts. A journey that should take about 2-3 days between Lagos and Freetown, for example, takes an average of 2 weeks. So if you are conveying perishable products, of course, we already understand what that could lead to. Beyond that, we also have the problem of capacity. Most of our manufacturing is at the SME level, small and medium enterprises level, and an instrument or a device as simple as a dryer could prevent a local farmer from accessing the regional market, for example.
Yes.
So we have, and then even access to information on how to prepare your products. Access to finance, of course, that's a well-known one.
Yes.
That's why I've even not bothered to mention it. So we have a number of challenges, but that's the African Continental Free Trade Area, initiative. It's something that I would want to advise should be further deepened and driven to actually free up the continent to, a more enhanced trade relationship between the constituent countries. And I think AU, the African Union, also has a lot to do.
Yes.
Because this is an organization that has been in existence for over 5 decades, but we still have a lot to do in terms of bringing Africa together. There's a whole lot to still do.
Well, thank you so much for the interview, and thank you for watching. I'm Akindele Akinyemi, the principal of the Gaba Marketplace Center, sitting here with Mr. Abel Onamake. We hope to see you guys in November 17th at the trade fair in Sierra Leone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akindele.
Thank you.